Ladies and gentlemen, this is For the Republic, here with your host, Louis Valentine, and my good friend Kandeep Singh, bringing you tonight a special emergency podcast episode. Um, as you've all heard tonight, the indictment of Donald Trump, former president, on the charge of essentially paying hush money with campaign funds to uh, a mistress that he had, Stormy Daniels, the porn actress. Before we get into it and I ask Candy for his thoughts, we're going to hear a clip from Jonathan Turley, professor at Georgetown University, on what he believes, uh, his thoughts on the Trump indictment. Take a listen.
This indictment, if it is reportedly following the theory that we've been talking about, is political. It's a raw political prosecution. Now, the indictment may come out with a crime that none of us have heard of, but for many months, this bootstrapping theory has been put out there. This idea that you could take a misdemeanor under New York law that has expired, that has a 2-year statute of limitations, and revive it by connecting it to a federal crime, in this case, the federal election violation. Now, there's a host of problems with that. First of all, it's a federal crime that the Department of Justice chose not to prosecute. Bragg's own predecessor declined to prosecute. But he is attempting to bootstrap that federal crime into a state case. And if that is the basis for the indictment, I think it's rather outrageous. I think it's legally pathetic.
All right, Candy. So you heard what the professor had to say. Uh, I'm sure you've been listening to a bunch of people. I certainly have. I've been listening to Fox since the five when the news came out this afternoon around like 5:30 ish Eastern time. So let's get right into it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually curious on who doesn't think that this is political or not, because honestly, this has been going on since what 2016,
Yeah.
and okay, so this is really confusing because I thought it wasn't gonna happen. That he wasn't gonna get charged for it, um, for something that's pretty weak. I mean, I think it's already proven that he hasn't even given out any money to any porn star like her. Um, Will this help Trump 2024? I don't know. Uh it's a tough spot, but it'll make Trump even more popular, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna go. But yeah. He
Right.
is he,
So
he is he is in a tough spot, but at the same time, I think this will maybe help him in 2024, but it's too soon to say.
So Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has come out already, and he's pretty much said that he's not going to aid any extradition request that comes from New York or a district attorney. Um, where do you see this? Do you think that there's going to be a standoff? Do you think that there's going to be U.S. Marshals at the door of Mar-a-Lago asking for Donald Trump, facing off with the Secret Service, trying to just break in and grab him? What do you think?
No, I don't know about a U.S. Marshal. If anything, I could probably see Joe Biden going in front of Trump's door with his chocolate chip and say,
Asking for
Trump,
ice cream?
Trump, Trump, come here. Where am I? Uh, uh, where's my sister Jill Biden?
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, I don't know. It's we don't know how this is gonna play. So
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. So I'll just give you my thoughts. I guess aside from 2024, I agree with what the professor said and pretty much what a lot of people have been saying. This is the weakest case out of all of the cases. Now he does have the Florida case with the documents, and he does have the Georgia uh, voter fraud case where he's being tried. I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago, the forewoman of the jury came out and she was on pretty much a media tour. She was on MSNBC, kind of just bragging about how they finally got Trump guilty, that they were going to indict him, that he was going to go to jail for this voter fraud
who
conspiracy.
who were the four women? Are you talking about the
It was
View?
a woman that was on MSNBC. She looked like she was insane.
I thought you were talking about the ones from the View. I'm like, who the hell want to get them?
Oh well, no. This is like a woman that will be on the View in the future. No, but that those are the cases that are probably more significant. I don't think he's guilty in any of them. I think this is all. It's only because it's Trump. Um, like if you've been paying attention, uh, again, statute of limitations has been cut off. It's been 2 years. I've been saying the same thing the professor has been saying. They're taking a misdemeanor at the max and putting a dress on it, trying to make it look like a felony, just so that there can be this perp walk, fingerprints, and that's what's going to happen. Alvin Bragg and the Democrats got what they wanted. I think
Right.
it's ridiculous that there's no Democrat outside of Rod Blagojevich, the former governor of Illinois, who went to jail on similar things, corruption. Uh, he was on Tucker. The only Democrat I've heard say things, look, we have to put party politics aside and say this isn't right. The only one. The White House has already said, they have no comment, which is pretty much saying nothing. MoveOn.com.org, which is this progressive blog that tries to mobilize people to do pretty much anything, any pointless things for the progressive movement. They pretty much said that this is a win for democracy, et cetera, et cetera. People on CNN and MSNBC, congressmen are saying, oh, this is great. This is finally the justice system working at its finest. It's ridiculous. It's really pathetic. And I think the American people aren't going to respect that. I think they're going to see that and say, Trump is right again. He was right all along. Like you said, this has been happening since 2016. Before he even got inaugurated, they started, as soon as he got elected and before he got inaugurated, there were already all those claims about the Russians. I don't know if you
Right.
remember the first when it first started, they said, oh, the Russians met with Trump Jr. and Eric Trump and Ivanka in the Trump Tower.
I remember that. Yeah.
You remember that? That was the beginning. And he's been right about everything since the beginning. People have been saying on Fox, and I've been listening to Fox since the five. Every single guest they bring on is pretty much said the same thing that, this is outrageous. This is an overstep. This was, this case is ridiculous, insignificant. But just because Alvin Bragg said he was out to get Trump from the beginning, Letitia James said she was out to get Trump from the beginning. They promised they were going to indict Trump in their elections when they were campaigning. They did it. This is just a campaign promise. And unfortunately, they're stoking the flames of a potential civil war. Not to say that Republicans are going to get violent. We don't do that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Outside of a few bad apples on January 6th, um, we don't do that kind of stuff, and we're not there. But when you have a justice system in a country that is appearing to be every single week more and more at a state of pre-civilization, where there's a two-tiered justice system, not the poor and the rich. It's whether you differ on opinions of politics, a petty thing. It's so petty. It's on the level of whether you like the Yankees or the Red Sox. That's how stupid it can be, disagreeing on politics. But you have a justice system that now operates that if Joe Biden's son uh, has gun charges or he's has issues with prostitutes or child support or whatever, drug addiction problems, that's not a crime. When you have people, for example, the Nashville shooting that just happened tragically a couple days ago, where you have literally people, including government employees, like the press secretary of the governor in Arizona, Katie Hobbs. Her press secretary pretty much said that, well, that's what they get. That's what Christians get. That's what that Christian school got for being Christian. They deserve it for the trans hate.
Yeah, that's very disgusting.
And yeah, and nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to be charged. They're not getting blocked on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. They wouldn't. So you have essentially you have a protected class. Liberals and progressives in this country can do whatever they want, like storm the Tennessee legislature, which they did this afternoon right before the Trump indictment came out, where you had groups of young minorities who are left leaning and white people, just a group of leftists, storm the Tennessee Congress, state legislature, while in session. And members of the legislature in Tennessee had to flee, had to get into hiding, had to go into back rooms and for their safety, while crazy people just stormed right in the middle of a live session. Those people won't get prosecuted, but Donald Trump and the January 6 prisoners will. Why? Because they committed the eternal sin of being a Republican or a conservative, and they're not going to accept that. And so this is an outrageous time. I mean, we're living in a banana republic. That's the cliche line I've heard all on IG with the conservative influencers. and on Fox News. This is insane. And for 2024, you know, there's nothing Trump can do that will get more of the base on his side. He has the base 100%. But I think it does prove a point that he has been right every single point of the way. Every single time he said something like they're spying on my campaign, or that Russia's a hoax, or that Hillary made up a lie, and etc. He's been right. He's been absolutely right. Now, nobody wants to admit that he's right on the voter fraud because everybody's afraid. Fox News got sued for it, and they're not going to say anything else now. And they've already jumped on the DeSantis ship, so they're not going to admit that he's right on that. But outside of that, everything else has been right, and he's been right.
You
This
know,
was he was going to get indicted.
you know, I also think that with the whole Trump indictment stuff, and when he tweeted out on, I think, Truth Social, he told everyone to go out there and protest. I think they're also looking for another January 6th, don't you think?
They are. They're instigating it.
Because
They're really pushing for it.
because the original January 6th, I mean, it's already been out there now. Like, they were over exaggerating the shit out of it. They're
Oh yeah,
talking about
no,
how it's worse than 9/11. It's worse than Pearl Harbor.
it,
Are you kidding me?
disgusting.
So they're really looking for another January 6th if these people actually go out there and protest.
Yeah, this is along, like I said, along the lines of he's been right about everything when he says, and he continues to say it, that they're doing this, they're going after me so that they can go after you because I'm in the way. That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much what that's he says it all the time, and he's right. I tell people think it's ridiculous, but he's right. It's if they can get the big guy, let's call him the big guy in this case, even though Joe Biden's really the big guy. If if they get the big guy, the MAGA king, let's call him the MAGA king too, they can get anybody, can't they? You're a January 6th prisoner. You're going to ask for justice. They're going to put the president of the United States, the former president of the United States, in jail, or they're going to indict him because of a misdemeanor. By the way, the proof is there that this isn't even true. You know, Michael Cohen wrote a letter in 2018 saying that he paid Stormy Daniels the money, not Donald Trump.
Exactly.
And the basics of this case is that Donald Trump paid Stormy Daniels hush money using campaign finance laws. That's what the whole mess is about. That's why Alvin Bragg, and this is the next step, Alvin Bragg has to take this to a judge and essentially prove to a judge without a reasonable doubt that this was a crime, that Donald Trump used campaign finance laws to pay Stormy Daniels hush money for a sexual encounter that they had. Now, outside of the judicial and legal proceedings, because none of us are experts on that, and we're not going to pretend. That's why we put people on like Jonathan Turley. Those are professors, they're experts. We're not. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not an attorney, but it's very hypocritical when you see people like Alvin Bragg, DAs, Soros funded and endorsed DAs, when they come out and they say things like, "Well, we're going to legalize prostitution because sex work shouldn't be prosecuted." That's
Mm-hmm.
those are women. We're not going to put women in jail. We're not going to enforce the laws that say that there can't be crime on the streets, there can't be violent offenders, etc.
Right.
And then he comes out and says, "Oh, but we're going to put the former president in jail. We're going to indict him because of a flawed campaign finance violation." That's the essence of it, which is a federal. He's trying to put. He's trying to put, I guess, lipstick on a pig and trying to tie a federal statute or federal crime to a local crime because he's just a local DA. He's not a federal DA. He's a local district attorney. So he's trying to put a federal crime that federal prosecutors dismissed and denied and didn't want to take, but he's going to do that now with Donald Trump. Even though the statute of limitations has run out, it's 2 years. It's run out already. So
I
I
mean,
just find this all ridiculous.
I also find it funny that you would really expect Trump to pay Stormy Daniels $130,000. That seems pretty less, honestly. If Trump wanted her to shut up, I think he could have just done way more. But 130,000, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the letter's out there. Michael
yeah,
Cohen,
exactly.
Michael
It's a
Cohen paid
weird
her.
case. It's a
Mike,
weak case.
it's a weak case.
It's such a shit case, honestly.
It's a weak case. It's
And
what it is.
and for those who are wondering, well, I'm pretty sure they're not wondering because everyone knows what's going to happen later on. But this is not going to affect Trump's running for president. It's
I
not
don't
going to
think
affect.
so.
No, it's not going to affect it at all.
I don't
But
think so.
everyone's been saying that it'll help him. Yeah, I can see that. It'll he might have a fan base growing up, but
This is what I think.
I don't
It'll
know.
help him in the primaries, even though I really don't think that he needs to do more. I might have criticism of Trump, but we'll talk about that on another day, another podcast episode. So tune in for those. We'll talk about that later. Um, but for now, I don't think my concern is Trump has to, and he's doing this slowly, but he's getting there. And I really like the statement that I saw that he posted about this thing. The previous statement that he had when he first got indicted was pretty much attacking Alvin Bragg and saying get out in the streets and show your voice and fight, fight. Uh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that he's pretty
Yeah,
much igniting the flame that Democrats want him to ignite because
yeah,
their intention is to show that Republicans and especially the MAGA wing, which they know and we all know is a big portion of the party, is inherently violent because they can already point to an event called January 6th and say, look, that's what happens when they don't get their way. That's what happens. They do this. They'll storm our Capitol. So imagine the damage they'll do once they get back in power. That's what they do. They point at that and say, this is why. And that works on independents. And they also target suburban women. And notice who Donald Trump doesn't do well with as of 2020 suburban women. He lost suburban women in 2020, but he won them in 2016, especially suburban white women, which are most of the suburban women. And so I don't know if that's going to help him there. He does need them to win a general election. If the incumbent Joe Biden runs in 2024, I think regardless of the nominee, I think by that time, and we're still far away, I do think that Trump will pretty much show the contrast between Joe Biden's America and the America Donald Trump provided us before COVID. Low gas prices, low inflation, low interest rates, a booming stock market, a booming economy. For the first time in over a decade, we had 3% GDP, trade wars that were successful, a diplomacy that worked. Again, we had the turns on the world stage. That's a huge contrast between the debacle in Afghanistan, the wasteful spending in Ukraine, depleting our military, etc., with Joe Biden. That's just a couple things. And Joe Biden's not done messing up. He's got a long, long, lot more time to mess up, and I'm sure he won't figure things out in these last couple months. So he has a lot of 2024 is still far away. So anything right now won't
yeah.
make a difference. DeSantis hasn't announced if he's running yet, and at this point, it doesn't really matter. But this is huge news. This is a perilous time in this country. We're reaching these. We've been reaching slowly, but incrementally these turning points, these forks in the road. And unfortunately, the government that we have currently, the president, the Senate leadership, the cultural movement, the institutions have been forcing us to take turns every single time that take us down a bad path. And this is another sign, the indictment of first of all, a former president and a current political contender for a crime that doesn't exist. And like Turley said, at this point, by the time we get to a judge, we might have a crime that doesn't even exist come out, something just made up, just because they need to put him in jail. They need to show that they're righteous, that they're moral, that they're the ones that deserve to be in power, etc. And I think it's a strain on our country at a time when we need true, serious, dedicated leadership like Donald Trump or even Ron DeSantis if he gets the nomination and wins the general election, regardless. But we don't need a Democrat in office right now. There are no Democrats anywhere that can lead this country right now. And the fact that the Democratic establishment thinks it's okay, and they do, they can say whatever they want tomorrow, and they're not gonna support this. They're not going to not support it. They're not gonna fight back. The Obamas aren't going to come out and say, "Oh, that's not good. That's not right that you did that." The Biden isn't going to come out tomorrow and say, "You know what? You shouldn't have done that."
No, they're
No, they're not.
they're just gonna keep their mouth shut.
No, they're going to keep their mouth shut, and they're going to keep doing what they do, and it is destroy this country. And it's a tragic thing. The founders of this country put their lives on the line. If we lost the Revolutionary War, those founders would have been killed, hung for treason by the British monarchy, by the British government. Our leaders nowadays don't put themselves on the line. Donald Trump is the only leader in a long, long time that has put himself on the line to improve this country. He doesn't have to be president. He can go back to Mar-a-Lago and play golf. It's a
Oh
sweet
yeah,
life.
he doesn't. Yeah, he
He doesn't need to do this, but
doesn't
he's
need to
doing
do
it.
this.
He's not doing it for the money because he got poorer when he left office in comparison to when he came in.
Yeah, I think he lost like
But he lost
three,
billions,
three, $4 billion.
billions,
Yeah,
billions of dollars. And so it's a tragic thing what we've seen. I don't see this improving. I think that it's going to be difficult for him to convince a jury in New York, Manhattan especially, that this is not a crime, mainly because people in Manhattan aren't going to be the ones that say, we're the ones who had Donald Trump finally in a courtroom. We finally had him in a courtroom. We had the power to decide and we let him go. Manhattanites are not going to want to do that. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we have regional places in this country that don't see any reason. They just do things on the basis of political motivation or on ideological grounds. And that's what
yeah,
I'm saying. It's pre-civilizational,
yeah.
where right is wrong and wrong is right.
Right. Quickly before we end this, if you're the Democrat right now, if you're on that side, if you're Joe Biden, um, no matter what happens after Trump gets indicted or it's official, I guess, I don't know. If they want to play smart and they decide that Joe Biden should keep running or not, I don't. If he doesn't run, I don't see anyone else beating Trump at all. Not even Kamala, not even Gavin Newsom.
Now, they'd have to put out someone
They
moderate, and they
they
don't
they
have that.
they yeah, exactly. They had to play smart if they want to go for this Trump indictment. So good luck to them, honestly.
Yeah, and they're going to tell you, well, we don't need good luck. We have everything figured out. They'll just redo the 2020 thing. They'll have
Yeah.
Facebook spend millions of dollars on election propaganda, etc. Things like that. All right, well, great. I guess we're going to wrap this up soon.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you guys share as well. YouTube. We also have Patreon. What's the Patreon thing again?
It's patreon.com/for the number four, the Republic. We have a Patreon exclusive episode up, so check that out.
All right, guys. See you guys. We'll upload some more stuff. Hope you guys have a good night.
All right, thanks, guys.